Sobat Negeriku, balik lagi bersama saya Natalia Lawrence di podcast jpnn.com, kulik terus jangan kasih kendor. Dan seperti yang Sobat Negeriku lihat, saat ini kami sedang berada di Kedutaan Besar Ukraina di Jakarta untuk berbincang santai dengan tamu spesial kita hari ini, yaitu Profesor Maksym Yakovlyev. Beliau adalah Kepala Departemen Hubungan Internasional dan juga Direktur Sekolah Analisis Kebijakan di Universitas Nasional Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Prof, sebelum kita berbincang lebih banyak tentang hubungan internasional antara Ukraina dan juga Indonesia dan terkait Muslim di Ukraina, mungkin bisa dijelaskan kapan Prof tiba di Indonesia?
I arrived on Sunday.
Yeah.
It is my first time to Indonesia. I am very happy to be here. I'm very impressed how green, diverse and nice Jakarta is. And I hope it is not my last time in Indonesia.
Dan apa rencana Prof selama berada di Indonesia? Kegiatan apa saja your activity in Indonesia?
I'm going to establish ties with Indonesian universities.
Yeah.
I hope that we have mutual interest in talking about international relations in general. And I have to say that in Ukraine there is a lot of interest in Indonesian politics, society, and also how Indonesia perceives its neighbors, the role of Indonesia regionally and globally. Indonesia is big and Indonesia is very important. I know that Indonesia is called middle power and Ukraine is the largest country in Europe by size. So as middle powers in Europe and middle power in Asia, I think we have a lot to talk about on international perspective. So Indonesia, for us Ukrainians, can be key to understanding international relations in Asia and globally.
Yes. Dan sebelum kita berbincang terkait hubungan internasional ini, I have a question about Muslim in Ukraine because I read in the articles that there's a lot Muslim in Ukraine. Can you explain about it?
Islam adalah bagian dari budaya Ukraina.
Okay.
I know that by statistics, there is like 1% of Ukrainian population are Muslim. Majority are in Crimea, like Crimean Tatars. We have 160 mosques before the full-scale invasion by Russia, and some mosques were damaged. Also during Soviet times, both churches and mosques were damaged, used as storages, so it was like bad period of time. I have to stress that Ukrainian Minister of Defense is a Muslim, so we have only 1% of population, but Ministry of Defense is a Muslim and a Crimean Tatar. We also have Muslims in the army fighting at the front, and our government takes care of them. For example, they have halal food.
There are halal food.
Yes, this is very serious. And in Ukraine, there never ever have been any conflicts between Muslims and Christians. They always coexisted. I can tell you, now it's Ramadan, I can tell you this interesting story. My mother used to live in Kyiv, in an apartment, and her landlord, she was Muslim, and my mother participated in iftar couple of times. She found it very interesting. So the Muslim community in Ukraine is also open for Christians, for those who are curious, who want to come to a mosque and see. For example, my university is close to a big mosque, and when you went up and pass by, the Muslims want to come inside, see how it looks inside. You can hear about the Prophet, you can see how it looks inside the mosque, so they're very open.
Okay, and are there like a Muslim school there about children, like in Indonesia we can call it pondok pesantren? Maybe in Ukraine there are some school like that.
I've heard, it's not my subject of study, but I've heard there are like schools for children by mosques. There are also religious organizations, and on academic level in university, maybe you would find it funny, but there is a big Islam study center at the Ukrainian Catholic University. But they have center for Islam studies, and they are very advanced. So which I find interesting, because the Ukrainian community were open to Islam and Islam studies, and they are very advanced. But at the Catholic universities,
can you explain about maybe the culinary in Ukraine that when fasting people after fasting, I mean?
Well, yes, I think the food there was, of course, halal.
Yeah.
It was interesting because Crimean Tatars, they have their own cuisine, which is also very famous. That yantik and all the food they make, it's famous for Ukrainians. And my mother told me that the food was good and interesting because the meat was good and all this stuff. And also part of Muslim community in Ukraine are those people from other parts of the former Soviet Union, like Caucasus Mountains, and they bring their cuisine, their food.
Yeah.
So for my mother, it was very interesting.
Okay. And we know that nowadays there are conflict near your country, and how the Muslim they praying when situation is not good, maybe around Crimea and the other city.
In Crimea is occupied by Russia,
and
I think the Crimean Tatars would tell you more about this. And the problem, especially at the front line and territory that occupied by Russia, I can claim that they are less tolerant than we Ukrainians, because Russia is very strong Russian Orthodox Church on the occupied areas, and I was told that approximately like 6 or 8 mosques were damaged during the invasion, because of war, and it is very bad because the mosques were built by the Muslim community. They collected money and built the mosque. So I think it's not good, definitely. Yes, but I'm sure that once we deoccupy the territories, get back the territories occupied by Russia, I think that Muslim will also return and build it up again. Because as I understand, the Muslim community is very resilient. They are strong and they're willing. And as I told you, there are Muslim in the Ukrainian army fighting to liberate the occupied areas.
Okay. And how about maybe are there cooperation about Muslim in Ukraine with other countries? I mean, Muslim civilian in other countries, maybe.
It's good. As I told you, our Minister of Defense is a Muslim. Because he's also a Crimean Tatar, they have good connections to Turkey. And Turkey historically was also important partner for Ukraine. And many Ukrainians before the invasion, many Ukrainians would go on vacation to Turkey. So it's also one of the Muslim countries which is very important in the region, Black Sea region. So it's where we come in contact with them, and I find it important.
Okay. Are there some activities Muslim from Ukraine cooperation with Indonesian Muslim in here? Maybe the organization from Indonesia, Muslim organization with Ukraine?
I think what was much ulama council. With this delegation there is Sheikh Murat, he's a Crimean Tatar, and they went to ulama council and they have cooperation, but you should ask him.
It's okay. And after we talk about Muslim and Ukraine, now we change the topic about it's about your major, of course, about international relation, Indonesia and Ukraine. What the proposed bilateral cooperation between Indonesia and Ukraine?
I can say from my side, of course, academic cooperation between universities. I had experience of being online by Zoom, invited, for example, to the Airlangga University, Surabaya, to do lectures. And I hope, like yesterday, we went to Paramadina University. What I think is important, as I said, that we should study each other. It doesn't work if I, Ukrainian, come to you and tell you, listen to my story. It is that I also need to listen to your story, how Indonesia developed, about your past. And we Ukrainians have a lot to learn from your perspective. I was told yesterday that it's written in your constitution in Indonesia that colonization must be abolished.
True.
So in Ukraine, for us, getting rid of Russian colonization is very important. We had today a meeting at the National Gallery, and I asked this question, how Indonesia is returning cultural heritage that was taken by your Dutch colonizers. How it is returned to Indonesia. So for us, it's also important to return our cultural heritage to Ukraine. So decolonization, how Indonesia fought for it, is lessons we Ukrainians can learn from you. It's important. Second, as I said, Indonesia it's middle power. It's big, between
it's
two
very
oceans.
Big country, yeah.
Yes, it is, and I think what I dream of having in Ukraine, I would call it Indonesian and Indo-Pacific studies.
Yeah.
Because you are between two oceans, you have perspective on all region countries.
Yeah.
For us, that might be the key to understanding this region. Because Indonesia is very diverse, with many groups and also religion, because Muslims in Indonesia are tolerant towards other groups. So there are many lessons we can learn. So academic cooperation, then also research and studies. I think that it always starts between academics, like two people meet, they have one interesting topic, and they start collaborating. This is something we can improve, because for us Ukrainians it's also important that, I think this is also common for Indonesians, Ukrainians, there is Western academia. And in Europe, the attitude towards Eastern Europe is also like not seeing as equals, I would say. Sometimes we feel it, Ukrainian. But then we see that there are other parts of the world, not only Western Europe. There are like Indonesia, Asia, where we can do collaboration together, more on equal terms.
Okay, and you said that you learned many things from Indonesia. How about the democracy in Indonesia? What do you think about it?
I think first, I'm impressed how it is all organized. If you have to organize voting on 10,000 islands with so many people, technically it's like,
there are lots of people.
Lots of people, lots of work. It's like, I'm positive I had to apply for e-visa, electronic visa for Indonesia. It was fast, effective, and then even customs declaration. When you enter Indonesia, you do it on your phone, you scan, check. Very good. So practically, management organization is very good. Secondly, I was asked this question, like Russians conducted referendum in Ukraine if you want to join Russia. And now in the occupied areas, it took them nine days to announce referendum and to declare this territory as Russia. And when asked, I explained to Indonesia, in Indonesia, you know that to have a referendum or voting, you need debates, different opinions. If you watch Indonesian politics, people debate. People tell the arguments. Every day. With occupation, you cannot do that. You can only say pro-Russian things, not the other side. It is wrong. So I know, answering your question, in Indonesia you debate a lot, you present different opinions, and nobody is sent to jail for that. This is not like, so in Indonesia it's like, I'm impressed with a big country, huge territory, but it works.
We can collect any suggestion from many civilians.
This is impressive.
And how about the concrete challenge Ukraine and Indonesia for the next time?
So
do you think? What
channels or challenges?
Challenges.
Okay, I think we Ukrainians need to belajar bahasa Indonesia to speak and to learn more. It is distance is a challenge, but if you have academic cooperation, it is not that complicated. I think also we need time. Because you cannot study language in one day. It's like longer cooperation. Of course, the challenge is war. The Russian war against Ukraine is that I would love to invite you to Kyiv, but it is not safe. Because Russians send missiles and people die in Ukraine, so it's dangerous. So it is a challenge. But I hope Ukraine will win and will get the territories back. And I know that Indonesia can be a reliable partner in supporting academic exchange, cultural exchange. So Indonesian culture is so rich. So, but maybe I would repeat, distance, language, we need to study each other languages. It would be very good. War in Ukraine is of course a challenge. But from my 2 days in Indonesia, what I see that Indonesians are very open to suggestions, to cooperation, and I'm sure that some of my contacts will last longer, and we can do something together.
Can you elaborate about the culture exchange Indonesia and Ukraine? What kind of culture you can make it happen for exchange?
It's not my particular field, of course, but I think maybe what is important to promote each other culture.
Okay.
So that, for example, Indonesians would come to Kyiv after the war, of course, maybe, and show something from Indonesia. You have a rich theatrical tradition.
Okay.
There's an interesting one. Yeah, I would imagine even for people to promote cuisine. The food from Indonesia. I had yesterday nasi goreng. It's nice.
So only nasi goreng you
not only, but it's to show how different food is. Like this is, maybe you would also like Ukrainian food. I mean, but culture is so diverse, both books and literature. With us in delegation, there is a lady. She speaks Bahasa Indonesia, and she's writing her PhD dissertation on Sastra Indonesia.
Sastra Indonesia,
and Policy Indonesia. So she studies the Indonesian literature. So in cultural exchange, I would guess more translation. Like modern Sastra Indonesia into Ukrainian, Ukrainian literature into Indonesian. For that we need translator. I'm sure you would like to read the Ukrainian book in Indonesian. I would like to read Indonesian Ukrainian.
I will try to learn your language too, maybe. I don't know, is it difficult or easy?
Yes, it's difficult. But I would say that if everyone says that Bahasa Indonesia is easy, it's not easy because it has so many nuances and small words. It's a very interesting language.
Okay. So what the most challenges diplomatic for Ukraine nowadays and with Indonesia?
Ooh, a difficult question.
Excel in health.
Yes. I don't think that our diplomatic relations are bad.
Yeah.
We have very good ambassador of Ukraine to Indonesia. Maybe I would say generally we need to know more about each other.
Yeah.
This is generally the problem.
Yeah.
And since I think that's we need to. I don't think that we have. I would say that Ukrainian-Indonesian relations are good generally, and there are no conflicts between Indonesia and Ukraine. We have common understanding, so I wouldn't see. Maybe what I would like to have more diplomatic talks, more exchange, more like that. I don't think that we have problems. We don't have any. Conflicts, anything. We have no topic to quarrel about. I mean.
Okay. Can you explain what's your hope about Indonesian and Ukraine bilateral diplomatic for next time, and about your hope about condition in your country?
2 questions. Thank you.
Yes, 2 questions.
So I checked the statistics because the war is ongoing. And Russians are shooting rockets and missiles over the whole of Ukraine. In Kyiv, for full-scale invasion for the last 2 years, there are like air raid alarm happened over 1,000 times. And when it happens, school children and students have to go to shelters and wait for these rockets to be shot by Ukrainian air defense. So it is difficult both for school children, students, and of course my hopes would be to have Indonesian students and journalists come to Ukraine, but unfortunately it is not safe because Russians, they shoot rockets and missiles at Ukraine and then there is war. So my hope is that we win this war and we can invite you to come to Ukraine to see our country. Of course I would like to have also Ukrainians traveling to Indonesia to enjoy your beautiful country, to study at your universities, to get friends among Indonesian students, because everything starts with personal contacts. I think it's very important. So also my hopes would be, I would dream of having in university, it's called double master program. So you study at 2 universities, you go in exchange, and 2 universities, a Ukrainian in Indonesia, give you a diploma together. I think it is very good to have something like Ukrainian-Indonesian studies, comparative politics, comparative culture. That would be my dream, of course.
If you have chance to teach students,
I would love to. I mean, but first I need to master Bahasa Indonesia. It's difficult, but well. First, I think I could, of course, tell about Ukrainian politics, Ukrainian society, but I also think it is important that as a Ukrainian, both Indonesian and Ukrainians, we have our own vision of our regions.
Yeah.
So of course I would not only teach about Ukraine but also about Central Eastern Europe, about our experience of colonization and decolonization. And of course I would also listen what students tell me about how Indonesia manages decolonization, how you build up your identity, because you have a very diverse identities, many islands, many languages. In Ukraine there is a book which is called Language Policy in Multi-Language Societies. And Indonesia is given as a very good example of the language policy, with Bahasa Indonesia that everybody can understand and speak, and many languages that exist in your country. So I think there are many topics like regional politics, language politics, culture, a lot.
Okay, it's the last question for our conversation. Your message for Muslim from Ukraine and Indonesia about their cooperation maybe, and about peace in the world too, for your country too.
I know that for Muslims there are many important things, and first of them, among them, is justice. I think if anyone violates rules and norms and invades, anyone who oppresses people, invade another country, should be punished. Because I know that for Muslims, justice is very important. So I'm sure that the Muslim community of Indonesia has also an understanding that violation of human rights, rights of children, invasion of other country, and doing harm to your neighbor is something that should be punished. Because I think that when I think about the Muslim community, one of the first things that comes to me is that Muslims support justice. And I think this is very important for all of us to understand.
Okay, then it is the last of our conversation. Thank you so much for inviting us, me and my team, to the embassy, and I hope you will get success for the next time for your future and your country future, of course.
Thank you. I hope in some time in future I will be able to welcome your team in Kyiv.
We really want it.
You will like it.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Dan Sobat Negeriku, itu tadi perbincangan santai kita dengan Prof Maksyim. Semoga kita juga mendapat banyak pengetahuan baru nih, terutama terkait saudara-saudari kita umat Muslim di Ukraina. Dan juga buat Sobat Negeriku yang sedang berpuasa, semoga lancar puasanya sampai dengan nanti di hari terakhir ya. Dan nantikan podcast jpnn.com selanjutnya bersama saya, Natalia Lorenz. See you!